December 16th, 2013. Is crap here, my God. I just want to acknowledge in our, believe Mr. Russ Burke is present somewhere. I'm trying to find Russ if he's in here. And so I just wanted to say that Russ Burke and the group that does Leadership Vancouver Island, the board of directors, have worked very, very hard to put this together. And so maybe before we rise, I'll just quickly say that the proclamation for the 2013 Leadership Week is whereas Leadership Vancouver Island inspires and generates outstanding leadership, learning and service, and whereas Leadership Vancouver Island recognizes that qualified and well-trained leadership at all levels of business is essential to the sustainability, growth and strengthening of our economy and community, and whereas businesses and community organizations sponsor leadership learning programs to provide employees with meaningful learning opportunities to practice and embody personal and professional leadership. And whereas leadership lives in each of us and is inclusive and accessible. And finally, where Leadership Week 2013 is an ideal time to bring the attention to the important and integral contributions that all leaders in Central Vancouver Island make in this community. Therefore, I, John Rattan, the Mayor of the City of Nanaimo, do hereby proclaim that the week of November 17th to the 23rd, 2013 shall be known as Leadership Week, and that Wednesday, November 20th, to be known as Leadership Day in the City of Nanaimo, and urge citizens to seek opportunities to recognize emerging local leaders and support their training and activities as they prepare themselves for their future roles as leaders in our community. I call on all employers to support continued training and development for all staff, recognizing that well-trained leaders are essential for success in today's business world. So, Mr. Burke, if you'd like to come forward. Any words?
If I do, I've got a little presentation for you.
And the microphone is
yours. Of course, you know Katie.
Katie, come forward. You want to say Of course, there's time. So step forward here, and we'll cue on this one, and away you go.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Russ, and I appreciate all the work that you've done to make this possible.
Thank you. It's been a great team effort.
Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you, Mayor Rattan, city councillors, staff, and of course the public. My name's Russ Burke, and I am Vice Chair of Leadership Vancouver Island. This is Katie Sayers, a graduate of the program and now sits on the board with me, helping us to deliver the program. I want to thank Mayor Rattan for the proclamation. We had a wonderful ceremony in the new boardroom across from City Hall. Great attendance by our sponsors, past participants, and the mayor. So that really added a great festive nature to the occasion. So we greatly appreciate that. We appreciate the City of Nanaimo have staff members on the program. This is the second year that staff have been on the program. We have 2 on this program, and a firefighter actually joined the program and paid for it himself. Wow. An indication of what he thinks of the program. So if you don't mind, I'll give you a quick overview. I'll try to be as brief as possible. So the program starts each year in September. We have a 2-day retreat that we do. It continues then with 1 leadership learning day a month after that to a program graduation in July. About now, they decide on a community program to undertake. And that has to be finished by graduation in May. You can see some of the history. The program was actually started by the Chamber of Commerce here in Nanaimo. After we were successful with that, we took the program province-wide. You can see some of the other communities that joined the program. We ended up with the last surviving program. We were tenacious and hung on. We were with the town of Ladysmith, also had a separate program. We amalgamated those two, and really proud that this year we're able to take the program to the West Coast. So they're now running the program. That's one of a vision of Pat Ross, did a great job. Our program is really an adult experiential program. It's not an academic program at all. It's delivered by facilitators from the community that come in and share their expertise with the participants on the program. We have coaches for the individuals that helps them through the program. And I know one graduate said, hey, I'm a 23-year-old kid. Who would have got a life coach at that age? So that's a huge benefit of the program. And this year we have program mentors that help with the community projects. So that's another great part of the program. Some of the topics that we cover: self-knowledge, community awareness, coalition building, effective thinking, team development. There's a lot of team development importance to the community project. You get tossed in a room with 4 or 5 other people that you wouldn't necessarily sit down and do business with. They have to come up with a community project. They have to have a community partner with someone in the community to help them through that process, and it has to be delivered by the end of the year. Sometimes it takes them 4 or 5 meetings just to come up with a name for their project, but boy, that's when the leadership really starts to take place. Little saying, leadership is ultimately about creating a way for people to contribute to make something extraordinary happen. I have a short video. I apologize for the quality. My son and I shot this. He's a graduate VIU. And so some of the sound isn't probably the finest, and I'll take the blame for that.
Okay.
Maybe I'll, go ahead. You can shoot that video. Leadership Vancouver Island is a personal leadership development program that can lead to leading self, leading others, and leading community.
Personally, I think that leadership in the workplace is extraordinarily important.
If I can learn to lead myself, I then have something to share with others that I'm in close connection with, and then by extension, my community.
It's about your people. So ultimately, if your people aren't engaged and they're not led properly, you're just not going to get anywhere.
Leadership is important in business because we need to grow and develop our folks that we have on board. You know, we have lots of young folks coming into the system, and we need to give them the opportunity to develop their supervisional and interpersonal skills.
For me, the program as an employee here at Herbal Magic really helped with just boosting confidence and realizing sort of my potential in the workplace, and that, the power I have in realizing what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and how to work on those things, and, celebrate what I was good at as well.
It's for everybody that has a spark of leadership inside them that wants to see what they can do with that, what greatness lies within them.
What the leadership program does is it gives you new possibilities, new ideas that you can use in your everyday life, and continue to build on those.
So it's a year-long program, and what they come back with is enhanced skills to work with others, enhanced skills to work as a supervisor in the organization. It's also a great succession planning tool for us because we can see folks grow during that period of time. We've seen tremendous growth, personal growth in some of our folks, and they're now dealing better with themselves, they're dealing better with their coworkers, and they're dealing better with their clients.
Vancouver Island leadership is a very important part of our community here in Nanaimo. For us at the university, it's particularly important for the professional development opportunities for our people at the institution, and an opportunity for them to engage in the community in a way that allows them to meet and network with people that are engaged in the community in the same way.
As an employer, having somebody on the Leadership BC program, I have noticed that Katie became quite an amazing individual to even more amazing individual. She saw opportunities that she hadn't seen before. She expanded on those, and it's been translated personally as well as in her work environment.
Talk to anybody that's been through the program, and I think you'll find some very, very key ambassadors that will say, yes, this was good for me, but it's also been very, very good for the place that I work.
Canadian Western Bank has sponsored folks on this program because we get back better employees. They get into the groups and they start to learn about conflict management skills, working with the media, working in larger groups, project management, all those types of skills.
You can then take what you've learned at Vancouver, the Leadership Vancouver Island, and reinvest in not only your workplace, but your community as a whole. And that's a significant exchange of gifts, and I think that that's really valuable.
It's a very good idea to think about engaging with Vancouver Island leadership and thinking about how you can provide opportunities for your employees to get engaged.
It's a fantastic program. It will make you realize, learning curves that you would never expect. It will open a lot of doors for you in personal learning and community awareness and career growth in all areas of your life. The bounties will just they'll pile up, literally, in many ways, whether it's personal, professional, and community bounties. And have fun, because it's a really, fun program.
Burke Electric Media?
That's my son.
There will be some questions for you. I just want to say thank you very much. And for people who aren't aware, Russ Burke does a huge amount in our community, and he's also very well known as the chair of the Nanaimo Airport Commission. So thank you for that. And we have questions. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Worship. Not a question, but just a strong vote of confidence in what you have accomplished with this program and will continue to accomplish. To see the enthusiasm from the people that spoke, that have participated, and just great work. And this is what makes us really proud of our community, when people take on challenges like this. And I just must commend you both and everyone else. And when you're talking to your lifetime coaches, make sure that you let them know there's not a lot of security in coaching. Just kidding. But it's just a great program that you have invested in here, and thanks for doing it here in our community. Thanks, guys.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Burt, for your presentation. As a former graduate of this program, I have to say it was very beneficial to me, and I can tell you the initiatives that the program actually does to benefit our community is just absolutely phenomenal. I can tell you from my community project, they're still actually going on with that, and I was part of the program in 2007, so that's still a significant period of time. So I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity when I was part of the program, and it helped me a bunch. And I know that the people who went through it after I did also appreciated the benefits and received a lot of benefits from going through the program. So I hope to continue to see this going on throughout our community for a significant period of time and continue to make our community a better place. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, George was our youngest graduate, grade 12, when he took the course. We also had a 70-year-old grandmother who took the course and said at the end, I took this so I could tell my grandkids I could graduate, because I couldn't graduate coming out of school. So we get all ages on the course. Thank you.
Well, that's good. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Burke, and it was a great presentation. Enjoyed it very much. Question for you. Does somebody have to be sponsored, or can they enroll as an individual?
Definitely can enroll. We have lots of employers that put people on the program, but we also have people from the community that apply. It is a tuition course. Our costs are about $2,500 to put someone through the course, but we have bursaries available. And you should know that it's delivered by Vancouver Island University for us. And folks that are going through a degree program can use it towards their degree credits towards a degree. So we welcome all people from all walks of life in the community. It should reflect the community as a whole. So we really look for that diversity.
Good. Thank you very much.
Well, you mentioned that one of the Nanaimo firefighters put themselves through and self-sponsored, So anyway, I just wanted to thank you very much. Great program, obviously. I've been to a number of meetings over the last few years, and I can assure you the enthusiasm that the people have for the program, particularly those that have gone through, is in evidence. If anyone has a chance to go to the meetings, they should. It's it's really encouraging to see the program like that work so well. And thank you to you, Mr. Burke, for all you've done. Thank you both.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, the next presentation is Mr. Don Allen, Operation Red Nose, the coordinator, to provide a presentation regarding their program. And I would think they may be standing up near the back, just as a guess here. That come down, sir. That yeah, careful, careful.
This is all confidential, so even if we have, we can't say anything.
Whoa, careful. Welcome, welcome. Uh-oh. Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
Okay. I'll get started just
Please.
to
Yeah.
keep things rolling along. Operation Red Nose was launched in Quebec City in 1984. This year is the 30th anniversary of Operation Red Nose out of Quebec City. It's been in Nanaimo for 18 years now. We're celebrating our 18th year. And December 7th, Operation Red Nose nationally had its 1 millionth volunteer participate. So it's been far-reaching. It has actually expanded into Europe. Jean de Connick set it up as a way to reduce drinking and driving. He also used it as a fundraiser for his swimming team. Operation Red Nose in Nanaimo is hosted by Pacific Sport. So any monies raised through Operation Red Nose stay in the community to support youth in sport and activity, as well as development of elite athletes. It's a program where we provide people that have been out having some holiday cheer, and sometimes they're not necessarily impaired people, they just, for any reason, don't want to drive their vehicle home. We provide teams of 3 that go out in an escort vehicle with a designated driver and a navigator. When we reach the location where the people are, the designated driver and the navigator drive the car with the client and whatever guests he or she may have home. And then the escort vehicle follows, and they get home safely. The designated driver and the navigator hop back into the escort vehicle, and they come back to headquarters. We run the program out of the Pacific Sport office at it's Building 100 on the VIU campus, and it's been a very big success for the last 18 years. This year, we're finding an even more increase in demand. We're going to we will beat our numbers, any previous numbers that we've had. And we've finished 3 weekends, and last year we did just over 700 rides, and this year I'm thinking we're going to top 800. We need a tremendous amount of volunteers. In fact, the more volunteers we can have, the better. It's a real fun time. It's a real positive attitude. And over 18 years, we've had such good support from the community. However, with the increase in demand, we're here today asking for more volunteers, especially around New Year's Eve. That is our busiest night, and we'd like to have 50 volunteers at the center on New Year's Eve to make sure that people aren't waiting too long for a ride. And it's absolutely critical that we keep this as efficient as possible. We're just afraid that people that are waiting more than 45 minutes might think, oh, maybe it's all right to drive now. And really it isn't. In fact, it's probably even worse. So we're doing a fairly broad request throughout the community for more volunteers, and anybody that does want to volunteer, and like I said, it's great to get a couple of friends together. If you're not the type of people that go out New Year's Eve, It's a great atmosphere. It's catered, and we have a lot of fun. And it's extremely rewarding from the perspective of knowing that you're making a real difference in the community.
Okay, Don, I might just say thank you very much for the presentation, but the next thing to ask is how do they get a hold of you, or if there's anyone watching or in the audience that would like to participate? It's a great program, obviously.
They can go on the website, on the Pacific Sport website, pacificsportvi.com, www.pacificsportvi.com. There's an Operation Red Nose section on there. They can download the forms they need. They need a criminal records check, and there's a volunteer form. So they take the criminal records check down to the RCMP. The RCMP are one of our biggest supporters, and the criminal records checks are done free of charge. And they've been extremely helpful in turning around a lot of criminal record checks in a very short time. They can also call us during the week on the Operation Red Nose hotline, which is 250-755-6969. Or they can drop by Pacific Sport, Building 100 on the VIU campus in between 4th and 5th Street, and the forms are right at the front, and somebody there will be able to assist them.
Great. So we have a couple of questions, but I just want to say thank you for the effort you make each year in making this program such a success. And I know, the police are totally supportive of the program because it eliminates or at least reduces the risk of impaired driving. And good for you and all your volunteers who put so much into it. It's a wonderful program, and we wish you every success on it for this year as well. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Don, thanks very much. Terrific program. Recognized it 18 years ago. Welcome to Nanaimo in the new position of its coordinator. I just want to compliment what a wonderful service this is to our community. Not every community has it. We're very fortunate to be able to have the amount of volunteers that you're able to bring together for this very valuable service to our citizens. So I just want to say thank you to you and all those other people that engage in this, and hats off, compliments. Thanks a lot.
It's our pleasure. We have volunteers that have done this every year since it started. Wow. And we do have some volunteer appreciation programs as well. And
I think our councillor Fred Patchy, has helped out on a number of years. He's always said how much fun he had in doing it. And right now he's in Southeast Asia, so I don't think you can count on him for this year.
We're the only program on the island.
Really?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And we're looking at doing an expansion next year. We get so many calls just outside of our area. Like we get tons of calls for Nanoose Bay and Parksville, and we run from Ladysmith to Lanceville.
Wow. Well, congratulations. Great program. Continued success. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Yeah, okay, we move into the next item, 5C. If we see Rudolph coming down, the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer coming down, it may be Mr. Swaby in hiding in his costume, but oh, here he is now. Mr. Swaby, you're on.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's better than the Grinch.
The Grinch.
Your Worship, this is the last council meeting of 2013, and I'm going to take the opportunity to run through success stories for 2013 that council has adopted and projects that we have completed as a way to complete the year. Now, this is all based on your strategic plan, Your Worship, and it's going to be organized based on the priorities of the strategic plan. And it's quite a long presentation, which I'm going to run through very quickly. It will be on the website if you'd like to look at it in more detail, or if anyone wants to refer to it. So, Your Worship, just very quickly, the strategic priorities Council has relate to asset management, community building partnerships, taking responsibility, transportation, water, and waterfront enhancement. So, starting with priority of water and asset management, Your Worship, this is the water treatment plant supply pipelines. These are the new pipes which go out to the filtration plant and come back in from the water source. This was a $9 million project that was completed this year. The filtration plant itself, Your Worship, was a $49 million project which is under construction. This was mandated by the province. Your Worship, in terms of the reservoir, as part of the filtration plant, we had to cover our reservoir which is our largest reservoir in Nanaimo. We call it Reservoir Number 1, and it was an $11 million project. Your Worship, underwater and asset management, our conservation strategy, which is one of the leading ones in the province, the city average per capita residential use is 250 litres per day, which is below the BC average of 350 litres per day, and we have a target of reducing that by 10% per capita per decade. Pretty ambitious goal. Your Worship, on to asset management. We purchased quite a large waterfront property, 26.7 acres, known as One Port Drive, which is known by a number of names, the Wilcox Yards, the CP lands. And this was done with an effort to securing future development rights activity for the city, as well as primarily for a transit exchange. Your Worship, Bowen Park Sports Field. This was an improvement that came about as a result of the Bowen Bridge in partnership with the contractor, and it will be ready in April for playing on. As well, Harewood School Field was an upgrade that we undertook, and it'll be a new park for the south end when it's ready. Your Worship, in terms of off-dog leash areas, there's 4 new ones in the community that are permanent. One is the securing of May Richard Bennett Park in the north end as part of the land exchange with the school district. And there's one on Protection Island, one at Northfield Park, and one in Departure Bay.
Mrs. Swaby, can I just ask, how many off-leash parks do we have to around 12, is it now?
That's correct, Your Worship.
12,
I think it's
thank
about
you.
12. Your Worship, the long anticipated and much debated jail cell upgrade was completed at a cost of about $800,000 to $900,000. And this was to meet federal regulations which had changed over the years as incidents happen in the jail cells. Now on to transportation and mobility, Your Worship. The transportation and master plan, of course, has been going on for a while now, and this is going to be a very comprehensive, forward-looking document that's tied directly to our land uses and includes all types of multimodal means in terms of pedestrians, cars, buses, trucks, and transit. Your Worship, we have, of course, recently been out doing an e-town hall, and there's been public meetings related to a fast ferry proposal that Council has been working on with a private company. And this is still in negotiations, but we definitely have a draft agreement that we're working on with the applicant, which is good news. Back to the Wilcox land, Your Worship, this is the part of the CP land purchase that we see as a transit exchange, which would be intermodal and potentially in the long run provide for passengers on trains, fast ferries, BC ferries, coach line buses, as well as transit. Your Worship, we've undertaken, and it's just currently underway now, a redevelopment of the parking lot at Oliver Woods to be more efficient for circulation to the parking lot itself. There's our first major traffic circle, Your Worship, which is in the Parkway Industrial Park, which is the extension of Boxwood Drive through Green Rock development. And Your Worship, undertaking responsibility. Of course, there's 4 pillars that Council has under economic health: environmental responsibility, social equity, and cultural vitality. Under this category, Council has undertaken a corporate strategic plan, which is completed. There's been a corporate communication plan. Of course, we have the RCMP strategic plan, which is the first one that we've had as the contract services with the RCMP. And we've had a couple e-town hall meetings, which was recognized in the governance review as well as in the strategic plan as something that we should look at doing. Your Worship, under the Colliery, taking responsibility, the Colliery Dam risk mitigation was a short-term risk mitigation that we entered into to offset or delay the long-term mitigation process. And this was a process to deal with emergency response to the Harewood neighborhood and was a very successful full-scale evacuation of the neighborhood. Your Worship, in 2013, we canceled the contract with Robbins Parking in the downtown, and we took parking in-house, but we expanded the program to include not only enforcement of parking, but also to take on security roles and to act as ambassadors in the downtown. Your Worship, there was in 2013 development of a new service level budget review process, which is similar to a zero-based budget that Council is currently undertaking. which we hope will allow council to feel better about the process in terms of what services they're prepared to fund at the end of the budget year. There was a first quarter financial report, which we've always done internally, but we presented to council last council meeting, I believe it was. And we have a balanced scorecard process which is underway, which is a way of monitoring and evaluating how we're doing in terms of council's priorities. And I would say I've heard from the Director of Finance that this is one item that he continuously gets calls from around the province from people looking at ways to monitor how you're performing. And this one seems to be picked up on the radar as something that we're leading the way on. We've, of course, done the governance review. It was before council last council meeting, and we'll be initiating further studies as recommended by the Governance Steering Committee. Your Worship, we finished and occupied the first low-barrier housing project in the downtown, and the second one is under construction at Uplands Drive, with 2 others to follow that. So under taking responsibility, there was a bunch of web-based services that we provided to the community that have been very successful and very well received. And I would encourage everyone to go onto the website and have a look at these because they give you a lot of information about what's going on in the community. The first is What's Building in My Neighborhood, where you can find out if there's any development application, find out exactly what it is and where it is, and what stage in the process it's at, and how you can be involved if there's a public process. My City for Building Permits is a program that we have for the applicants, and they can go on and actually find out where their application sits in the city processes without coming in to talk to anyone. The Art Explorer and the cultural maps are just another way of searching the community to find out where various amenities are throughout the community. So, Your Worship, we've done a lot of energy initiatives with the city, and primarily at our large recreation centers. And we've been able to reduce our energy reductions by 331,600 kilowatt hours, or 560 tons of CO2 emissions. And the one stat that I wanted to pull out of the Ipsos Reid Citizen Satisfaction Survey that we did in 2013 was that 91% of the community is satisfied with city services. Your Worship, we also completed a property management strategy which talked about inventorying what we have in terms of properties, what properties we thought we could dispose of in the future, and what properties we thought we needed to acquire for various reasons in the community. Your Worship, another very important item we reviewed was the riparian area regulations, and this really was a lead into the restructuring and gave us a better understanding of how we could do a better job environmentally of reviewing applications that were adjacent to fish-bearing and non-fish-bearing streams. So, Your Worship, the much-debated Wharf Street Loo has been taking care of business since August. Community partnerships, Your Worship, the purchase of the West Marsh in partnership with Ducks Unlimited was 65 acres of wetlands. And we also entered into an agreement with the SFN to provide water to their residents. We have a very important partnership with the school district and the Life Safety Society, which was headed up by Dr. Bierman. And this has been very successful and allows students in grade 3 all to have swim lessons and become more comfortable in the water. Also, under community partnerships, we entered into and adopted an inter-community business license program, which allows you to have a business license in Nanaimo, but also operate in the region without having a business license in other communities, and vice versa. Inspire Nanaimo website was launched, which was an initiative from the Chamber in partnership with the city and VIU, and really promotes Nanaimo in an excellent way. The Downtown Nanaimo Business Association bylaw was renewed, and this is good news for the businesses downtown and the services that are provided through that association. We met once with our sister delegation. This is the first time in a number of years with a delegation from Saitama City in Japan. A very good exchange between political leaders of that city and our community. We undertook and initiated a health and social network was established, and they will be meeting on a continuous basis every year to discuss common needs and goals. So, of course, the cultural plan was just adopted in draft form by council and sent out for its final consultation, and that will be coming back to council for final consideration. And part of the restructuring, of course, was to recognize that culture is one of the 4 pillars council has, and this is one way that we're looking to raise the level of awareness and service delivery of cultural services. We have our first Poet Laureate, which is Naomi Watkin, who was at council meeting 2 councils ago, I believe it was. Will be coming periodically to provide readings to council and the community. The Newcastle Island Cultural Centre Visitor Experience Improvements was being undertaken as a part of the partnership between the province, SFN, and the city to determine what kind of uses we can have as tourist attractions on Newcastle Island. The Nanaimo Art Gallery was relocated from the university to our arts district in the downtown as the first phase of establishing a full-time art gallery downtown. We have a partnership agreement with Shaw Internet Services Delivery, which will provide for free internet services in the downtown in the near future. And of course, we completed our last neighborhood plan, which was the Harewood Neighborhood Plan. We've initiated the Board of Directors, and the 2014 Summer Games is in full swing in terms of its organization. We hosted the Western Canada Cup Junior A Hockey Championships, very successful. And we just completed a partnership to build the Junior B Nanaimo Buccaneers their own dressing room off of the Nanaimo Ice Center. And many of you may not know, but this was the 90th anniversary of the Nanaimo Lawn Bowling Club. Your Worship, back to the waterfront, back to the lands that we purchased recently. There's been a very extensive program undertaken with public involvement to establish visioning for this property as we move forward with short-term, medium, and long-term uses for the property. And there's been a lot of discussion about walkway improvements. There's a widening and an establishment of the walkway in front of the Moby Dick Hotel. And in front of the Yacht Club, there will be a widening of that walkway to allow for multi-use. We acquired 4 acres of land on Departure Bay Creek, which allows for the permanent security of a very nice trail from the ocean up to midpoint in the Departure Bay Creek area. And we acquired new pieces of public art all the way along the walkway in the downtown. The hotel, Your Worship, was a big move this year in terms of selling the property to a private developer. Their development permit has been issued for the hotel, which is pictured in the slide, and this we are hoping will be under construction in 2014. Your Worship, finally, in terms of notable new constructions in the community, there was a large Canadian Tire everyone sees as they go by Northtown Centre, which is approximately 11,600 square meters in size, and it's an $8 million build just for the building alone, not including the site improvements that were done. The new Target at the old Zellers location was about a $6 million renovation. We have the other half of the main street was developed in Port Place Mall downtown. We have a large rental residential building on Terminal Avenue built, first large one built in a number of years, which has totally changed the rental market in terms of shifting the affordability and vacancy rates throughout the affordability range of the rental units in the community. The supportive housing project at Uplands Drive, as I noted earlier, is broken ground and is under construction, and that's for 33 units. There's a new golf club at the Nanaimo Golf Course. New office under construction at the corner of Dufferin Crescent, across kitty corner from the hospital. And this was a property that the city owned that we sold to a private developer. There's a new 3-unit row house on Northfield Road under construction. And although this is a small project, it's notable in Nanaimo because we don't have any true row housing. And this is a new type of housing for Nanaimo, and will be interesting to watch how this is received by the consumer. There's a new library renovation, quite a large one going on Hammond Bay Road. If you've gone by, it's an impressive new development that's under construction. And there's a beautiful old building in the downtown, which is the old Free Press building, which is having a heritage refit done to it and a third story put on it. Your Worship, there's a large single-family development known as Lamont Subdivision on Rutherford Road, and that's a 5-phase project with 112 single-family lots and 11 multi-family lots, of which the developer provided 27% of the original parcel as parkland. And the beaver is there because out of this development and an adjacent one, council adopted a policy of restricting live any type of body trapping in the community, which is before the province right now to be considered as provincial, an amendment to our local bylaw to allow us to do that. Your Worship, there was 2 new car dealers, quite substantial, built, and 1 major renovation. So the GM Cadillac dealership was built, and the Mercedes, Subaru, BMW, and Mini dealership, and the Mazda dealership underwent a large retrofit. And Your Worship, that concludes it, and I, on behalf of staff, wish you a happy Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. I think it's a pretty impressive list when you look at all the things that have either been completed or are about to. And you know, it represents a huge amount of capital outlay, but I think it also creates a great number of new jobs. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Swaby, and the staff for all that you've accomplished in this period of time. It's pretty exciting looking forward, and nice diversity when you look at the variance of all the different properties and the styles and locations throughout our community. It's huge. Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Worship. I'm in a really good mood today. Despite you know, many challenges that we face in our community and some of the very healthy debate that we have from time to time, it is so enriching for me to sit here and hear our city manager outline our city's accomplishments. And I think without that healthy debate and dialogue that keeps us in check and certainly keeps me in check, I just really want to compliment every person that had anything to do with any of the projects in a positive way that brought us to this conclusion for 2013. And so, Mr. Swaby and staff, I just want to thank you very much for getting us through 2013 and feeling good about going into 2014. Thanks very much.
Okay, I see no further comments. So we'll move into 8A and Corporate Services Development Permit DP 755 at 3217 Hammond Bay Road. The purpose is to obtain council authorization to issue a development permit for a 10-unit cluster housing development. And we do have 2 delegations. The first, Mr. Mark Collins. And is Mr. Collins in attendance? And also Mr. Kenneth Brolt. Welcome, sir.
I'm Mr. Collins. I live at 3219 Hammond Bay Road. And I had asked that the architect speak first so we could hear what he had to say to give us a better picture. And I sent that email to the council this afternoon because this is a late edition. And we'd like to hear what they have to say from the architect, and it might help in making decisions.
If the architect's present, if you would like to speak, sir, come down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name is Kenneth Brault, and I'm with Straight Street Design. And first thing I should do is clarify there's a typo there. I'm not an architect, I'm a building designer, and I got to make sure that's clarified.
Okay.
Yeah, so the project is at the address, as you said. It's quite a large property. It's an R10 zoning, and I'll just be really brief in the presentation. You have some of the drawings there, I believe, so you're pretty up to speed on it. It's an R10 lot, so it has to fall in within the steep slope guidelines. And we did that with concentrating building the buildings in a tight cluster. We've got three plexes, and there's the existing building too that's being upgraded and converted to match the existing the proposed buildings. The zoning bylaw requires that we be 40% lot coverage and try and preserve as much property as we can. We're well under or well over that requirement. About 50 or 60% of the property is not going to be developed. It's on the steep slope. A lot of the large trees are going to be retained. And so we are actually only at about 18% lot coverage. So we're well under that. The bylaw also allows us to be, the maximum is 45% floor area ratio, and well under that, including the existing building, we're around 25%. The bylaw also requires a minimum of 1.5 meters setbacks on all the property lines. And again, we're exceeding that, I guess, or we're at 3 meters on the property lines, and on the northeast property line in particular, we're about 7 meters. There is a requirement we're seeking for a variance. I don't know if staff are going to bring that up or explain that, or should I as well? Yeah, might as well. Balls in my court. We're seeking a variance for height, specifically for the 3 buildings. Again, because of the steep slope, the average grade turns out to be the factor in sometimes being over height. So each building, even though they're exactly the same, they have different variance requirements because of the slope. So sometimes we're sinking it into the lot, and other times we're backfilling. So we're seeking that variance with staff support. And the other variance is landscaping relaxation. And that's because of the road that's existing on the front there. So I think I'll leave it at that. If there's any questions or.
I think part of the request here before us in the motion is that building 1, the building height be 10.15, and building 2, 9.70. These are meters, of course, and building 3, 10.45 meters on it. So with that, Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Brault. Just a couple of questions. One in particular was congratulations on the number of parking spaces provided. We're usually the opposite, so that's great to see an excessive number of parking spaces. Could you explain to me the green wall system?
That's landscaping. That's something new to me. I just found out as well how that's worked. But I don't know if Kelsey wants to answer that.
My name is Kelty Chamberlain. I'm the landscape designer and consultant for the project. The green wall is actually a custom build. You'll note in the plans that it's a metal post system with a heavy gauge wire and cross beams with warmth and wooden structures at both ends with arbors above. The idea is that the heavy gauge wire actually acts as a support system for permanent green growth. So there'll be plenty of vines planted on that edge, and it fills in, and there's evergreen vines and deciduous vines, flowering vines. So a real mixture of plants on it. So it's, although it's not a green wall as in planted on a structure, it grows up the structure.
Thank you. Sounds lovely.
Thank you. Okay, sir, is that your presentation? I see no further questions. Thank you very much. Now, we had the other delegation, Mr. Mark Collins. Did you want to add anything to that, sir?
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship and Council, for seeing us. We came and saw Council on January the 21st, early this year. We did not want this 3-story townhousing to come into our neighborhood. And since that time, it has been on hold on the website until November 20th. It disappeared from the site. And then we had December 4th, it came back on the site, and only today, this morning actually, the new plans were posted for the public to see. That's very poor public information coming to us. And our neighbors thought this was gone when it was withdrawn, or we thought it was withdrawn when it didn't show up on the site anymore. And we asked Council in our last hearing to have all development permits show signage, because we didn't know this was even going up, and we only discovered it by chance. I think it's important that information get to the public, and I think that would be something we'd like to see happen. Now, I represent 11 owners surrounding this property, and you can see from our brief, it's been signed by our people not wanting this development here. I think that's important. We don't think it'd be livable for this neighborhood community, and we want council to support that. The design, OCP calls for compatibility with any design coming into any neighborhood. The zoning restrictions on this are not complied with. Now, you can see in our report, it's not just the roof heights, because they can become a staggered situation on any steep slope, but the perimeter walls exceed what's allowed in this zoning, 24 feet or 7.32 meters, and they're well over that. The width of these buildings is also against, and you'll see in our report from the bylaws, that they're not supposed to be wider than 24 feet, and they are. And these are wall faces that are going to be looking down on all of our properties. We don't want it. We don't want to see that impact. And we think it's not fair that there's no respect shown for what we have in our homes. So we looked at the permit guidelines. It doesn't comply with any of those, and it says, and you'll see in our report the reasons why it doesn't comply. And the steep slope restrictions calls for perimeter wall heights to be no more than 2.5 stories. And this is 3. When it doesn't meet the setbacks, it's supposed to be 4 meters back from existing property. It's 3.3 on both sides. That goes against the bylaws. The screening that is coming with landscaping is supposed to be 1.8 meters for every property. But if you look at the drawing and you see my property, it doesn't have 1.8 meters, it's got a fence. That's against the bylaws. I guess the dumpsters and the kiosks, we look at those, we don't see screening planned on those. And these are bylaw requirements that this design doesn't meet. So I guess we can go to the access situation, although we're worried about the management of water in this thing during construction, because we see all the trees going and there won't be any saved. Not that we're aware of. And if that happens during construction, there's going to be lots of rain runoff, and we want it temporarily managed during construction. What we see in the plans is management of water after construction. And we don't think that's what we want to see in this development. We also don't feel that the development shows on building 1, when it comes down over the top of my property, it comes towards the driveway. And there's supposed to be, the landscape says a screening refuge, or some screening for the refuge dump, but the other design, and these two designs don't add up. If you look at what you've got from staff, the 2 roads aren't the same. One's got the curb ending at the top, and the other one doesn't. We got different things on both of these drawings. That's not fair, and it's just come to staff. Staff has only got this stuff probably November 19th. Some of these plans are stamped, so they're rushed. Anyway, the other things that we were looking at on this thing are this access that they're going to plan is horrible. That access is where there's a bus stop. You can see. I would ask council at this point perhaps to look at the pictures on the back of the appendix, because they'll give you a feel for this site and the road better than anything I can say.
Yeah,
You just flip through them as I speak, but because there's no time to really have you look at every one of these pictures. But you get a picture of the access. Mine goes in front of the other property. It's the old original access for this 2 acres. This access that I'm being asked to accommodate is an access that came later in 1966 with a plan. And so this was the old home site. And that house was 1966 plus, okay? And they had to pave it, and there's a sidewalk in front. And that was part of the conditions of the 1966 subdivision, that it secured my access. And I look at that as clear indication of I'm supposed to have this access. It's on a, there's a plan at the very end of this agenda showing the actual plan that was signed and approved by Transportation or Highways, Department of Highways in those days, to allow this access. You see my property sticks out and has that piece of land that comes down on the roadway. I'm on absolutely all right-of-way. The city owns the right-of-way, owns my driveway. It's city property. But it provides me an access, and it was dedicated for my access, not for city work, which will come, I'm sure, in the future when they widen the road, but that's what happened in this subdivision. And now I'm being asked, it would appear, and I think it's absolutely absurd anyone should be asked to give up their access for another person. But this proposal calls for me to accept an easement over the other property through a fence that'll have to be gated. I'm a senior. I want to have an emergency services get to me as easy and quickly as possible. This access is the best situation for me. And if I had a gated thing, I'd have nuisances like my visitors would have to sit at the gate. I would not even know they're there. No one can get to my property without that gate because the strata has to be enclosed. And that fence and a gate there, it just doesn't work at all. There's a lot of reasons in my report why I also feel that's a total inconvenience. And there isn't even a sidewalk for me to walk down. The previous plan in 2012 had a sidewalk, and that's the one that went before the Design Advisory Panel, where they recommended allowing the additional height. But there was no conversation about the setbacks that didn't comply with. They don't comply with perimeter wall heights, and they don't comply with sun porches setbacks. They're all, it says 1.8 in the staff report, but it's 1.78 on one side. These are all these things to me, tell me, and I hope tells council that this hasn't got legs yet. And maybe it won't ever get legs because we don't think they can fit it in that narrow area that they've got to work with. And it's even in the staff report that there's only enough room to squeeze these things in. If they had to add things like setbacks that comply with zoning, they can't get it. You can't go in. And these three-story heights, I mean, that must be obvious to anyone how difficult that is to take for the neighborhood. Anyway, I can't understand why it's coming to you for approval. Is my 10 minutes up?
No, I didn't know if you're, but you've got 1 minute left, so.
Okay. I want to turn you to the letter that was written to the city in November of 2012 when I was first asked to give up my access. Now, I'm a former Ministry of Transportation property acquisition person. I bought a lot of the highway that we use for the Island Highway for 12 years. And I left the ministry as an acquisition coordinator, regional. So I know what I'm about when I'm talking about access and treating the public fairly. That should be the objective of any government. So I'm approached by the city staff to relocate my access, and I was told I had no choice. I said, I can't believe you could do this for someone else. You can't prefer one owner over another. What are you asking me to do this for? But they wouldn't go away. So I had a lawyer write a letter, and that's in the brief. It's in the addendum. It's from Mr. Ted Hanman. And under the community charter, I'd be entitled to compensation from the city if my access is gone.
You've got your time up now.
Thank you.
So you've used all your 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I would just like to ask staff if there's some comments on it, Mr. Lindsay, or will it be, I guess I'm curious as why, according to the delegation, this was received very, very late. And I just wondered why that is. Is there any comments you'd like to make on it?
Your Worship, I guess with respect to the time frame for the file, it's been an active development permit that's been with the department for approximately 2 years. So I wouldn't concur with the comments that it's come in late. There's been revisions to the plan that have come in the past month, but once those plans are received and they're vetted by staff, they're brought forward to council as part of the development permit. So essentially, once we have a plan that meets with guidelines, we bring it forward for council's consideration. The other comment that I would just point council to in page 81 and 82 of your agenda, there's a diagram there that shows the existing access. It was kind of an unusual situation where we have the access that leaves Mr. Collins' property and then basically goes across the front of the subject property before it enters Hammond Bay Road, approximately 2/3 of the way across the front of the subject property. On page 82 is the proposal based on the request that we have from Mr. Collins to retain that access. So there's proposal to retain the access as it leaves the property, but also in the long term provide alternate access through the subject development site. So that's on page 82.
Okay. Okay, sir. Councillor Bestwick, you go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I really don't have any questions to the delegations either, but I would. So if, I don't know if any other of my colleagues do.
Okay,
but
anyone else on council would like to direct any questions to the delegation? If not, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
To staff, is it?
Yes, Your
Go ahead.
Worship. Thank you.
Will we find out the results of your decision?
It'll come up later, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And we'll hear from staff now.
Thank you.
Mr. Lindsay, as it relates to the grade change coming off Hammond Bay and the new driveway that's going to go across the subject property and provide what I assume to be and hope to be a better access in and out of the proposed development and the existing 3219, I think it is. Could you please help me with how that, because it's very hard on a one-dimensional sketch to try to define the grade change and how where the bus stop is, how it's going to be impacted going in to that property, coming across, so it's not a right in, right out.
That's correct.
So could you please help me with what that might look like? I know we just went through one of these 2 weeks ago with further down Hammond Bay Road.
So certainly, Your Worship, it's not like many of the properties you'd find along here, where as you leave the road, the lots are relatively steep. So we have situations where there's driveways that approach the road on an angle to try to deal with that grade, and that's the existing situation that you find here in front of the subject property. Again, the driveway from Mr. Collins' property comes across the subject property, taking advantage of that change of grade, and comes down and meets Hammond Bay Road. So the staff's preference and the long-term solution is to come into the property. So again, I refer you to page 82 and sort of that area that's outlined in dotted in red there. The preference is to come into the property and provide an alternate long-term access, which we believe is the most suitable. What that also allows is for the eventual future construction of Hammond Bay Road to its ultimate width. What we have here is a proposal for an interim standard that basically has the ultimate standard for 1/3 of the project and then transitions to the existing asphalt sidewalk, which allows for the current driveway to be retained. So the current driveway that's being used by Mr. Collins, that access as it leaves his property will still be there. There'll need to be some minor regrading and tying it into the site works, but that access will remain in addition to the long-term access that will be on the property. So both options would be available. As we move forward and eventually look at widening Hammond Bay Road, we'd probably at that time have to look at removing the front access, and the sole access would be through the property itself. The access itself has been reviewed by our engineers. It's of course a 50K design speed along there. Staff are satisfied with the sight lines taking into account the access and the bus stop.
Thank you. I just have a couple of follow-ups, Your Worship. When you speak to long-term access, can you just describe for me what that means?
Well, I would say that I don't believe that the current widening is in the 5-year capital plan, but certainly whenever there's developments around the city, staff look at the road networking plan, what's the ultimate design, and attempt to facilitate dedication or a design that will allow us to build that out in the future. So I'm sorry, I don't have a time frame for.
So greater than 5 years?
Yes, sir.
And Your Worship, thank you. Is it reasonable for me to assume that the information that we have received tonight all this information here is quite a bit. And beyond what we have in our agenda package. And our design advisory panel met on December the 8th to review 5 considerations, and they came back with 4 recommendations. So when I read the design advisory panel's recommendations, did we address the sidewall issues? Did we address the 3.3 versus the 4-meter side setback? Were all of those topics addressed to the satisfaction of all parties?
Certainly, Your Worship. First, I would start by noting that it went to design panel on December the 8th, but it was 2011, so it's been a while that this.
Oh, I was hoping that was a typo.
File's been in process. What I would say is, like with any application, we take the recommendations for the design panel, work with the designer in this case to try to incorporate this. We're not always successful in meeting every recommendation, but certainly we feel that we've met the intent of the majority of the recommendations that came out of the design panel here.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just last question, if I may. Mr. Collins identified a few dates where information was available to him, and then he felt that there was information that wasn't made available to him or absent or otherwise. Would you care to comment on that? It seems very serious.
There is no formal public process as part of the development permit. What staff effort to do is provide information through the What's Building in My Neighborhood program that was spoken about earlier this evening, basically giving people opportunity to become a What's Aware. We try to update that site regularly with new site plans as become available. I'm not certain as to when the most recent plans were put on the site. I'm sorry.
Okay, and I'm not saying that they were or they weren't, or they are or they aren't. I just know that it's one of those programs that we really want to drive people and steer their attentions to, so that they know what the intended purpose is, so that they know what's going on in their community and their neighborhood. So I really, really do hope that what he expressed isn't the case, and that I really hope that when we are steering people to that site for those reasons, that it is maintained and it is as current and accurate as possible. Thanks.
If I can, Mr. Lindsay, I wonder, could you just comment with, there's 3 more questions coming, but can you just comment, the delegation, Mr. Collins had made reference to the fact that his access is going to be impaired by this, and I just wondered if you could comment on that aspect of it.
Certainly, Your Worship. Again, the preference here would be to build the ultimate standards in front of the subject property. What that would do would be terminating the existing access to Mr. Collins' property. Because of the concerns we heard and the preference to maintain that access, staff have come up with this alternative proposal, which essentially, again, speaks to both maintaining that access but providing the long-term access through the subject property.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to staff. Mr. Lindsay, Mr. Collins was concerned about rainwater runoff. And in the design advisory panels, when they addressed their concerns, a bioswale system is being installed, and it only cited that as a way to maintain the hydrology of the trees. Mm-hmm. Will it, in fact, assist with rainwater runoff?
Well, there's two things. Certainly, it'll assist in the long term, both for allowing for the natural flow of water, which is important, especially when we're talking about trying to preserve trees on this property and adjacent properties to maintain that existing hydrology that's on the site. But also with the development of the property, we'd be looking at a erosion and sediment control plan to make sure that the site was developed, that it wouldn't result in runoff leaving the property.
Thank you.
Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to staff, we're dealing with these 2 bulleted variances, and the one is the maximum building heights, and the other one is the landscape treatment, and that's the only thing we're dealing with tonight. Is there anybody going to be building behind these three, number 1, 2, and 3 buildings to obstruct views?
I'm sorry, could you clarify behind to the?
Well, uphill, I guess.
So the area, what I would define uphill, maybe if we looked at page 72 of the agenda, or 73, there's a north arrow. So uphill would be to the left or to the west.
West,
as
yeah.
the site grades up from Hemby.
Right.
So the site is achieving what the intent of the steep slope guidelines are calling for, and it's the preservation of the majority and the steepest portion of the property and focusing the development on the lower half. So we have about 60% of the property being retained in its natural condition with the density focused on the lower portion. There are neighboring lots, of course, and my understanding is the properties most adjacent to the proposed buildings currently have setbacks over 20 meters to the next building, but of course there could be future buildings built on those properties at some point.
So that, if you don't mind, Your Worship, so that addresses the building heights. And the landscape treatment, I guess they're lessening it or decreasing it to 0.2 meters width from 1 point something. I can't remember what the number is. Where is that? What is that?
Thank you, Worship. And again, we would probably best look at any of the site plans, but the landscape plan is on page 74 of your agenda. This is really a result of, we have an existing condition where there's a home on the subject property that the developer is proposing to incorporate in as part of their development, so to retain the home. Because the narrowness of the property is probably only just about 20 meters at that point, it pushes the access driveway to the only place that's left, basically to the north of that existing home between the home and the property line. In order to put the appropriate width of driveway in there, it leaves a very small area to provide landscaping buffer in there. It would normally be 1.8 meters. So the proposal, as the applicant was speaking to earlier this evening, is to replace that normal 1.8 meter with the green wall proposal.
And how high is that green wall?
I believe it's 6 feet. I can confirm that for you. Sorry, I'll have to. Yeah, I believe it's approximately 6 feet.
6 feet? Thank you, Worship.
Okay, Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. My questions have been asked and answered.
Okay, there's no further questions on this now. The staff recommendation is before you. Would somebody like to make that motion?
So moved.
Moves.
Staff's recommendation, Your Worship, that council issue development permit number DP 755 at 3217 Hammond Bay Road, subject to an access easement to the adjacent property and with support of the following variances.
Okay, as they're listed. Okay.
As they're listed.
I think, actually, I think it's already been seconded now. Thank you. That's fine. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Moving into development variance permit DVP 223 at 210 Woodhaven Drive. Purpose to obtain council authorization to vary the maximum allowable height of a perimeter wall in order to permit the construction of a single-family dwelling. And the staff recommendation is there.
I move that council direct staff to proceed with the required statutory notification for development variance permit number DVP 223 at 210 Woodhaven Drive.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Councillor Graves, that's from before, is it? Or are you on now? Sorry?
Can I go ahead?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to staff, is this a building code regulation for safety reasons or for looks?
This is a zoning bylaw. It is to deal, the intention was originally to deal with the aesthetics and to deal with homes on steep properties.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. No further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into item C, development variance permit DVP 224 at 6337 Desmond Road. And the purpose to obtain council authorization to vary the front yard setback in order to permit the demolition and reconstruction of a partially covered deck attached to an existing single-family dwelling.
Your Worship, I so move the council direct staff to proceed with the required statutory notification of development variance permit 224 at 6337 Desmond Road.
Okay, is there a second? Moved and seconded. Discussion, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And we're moving into zoning application RA 326 at 5393, 5397, and 5401 Jacobs Lane. Purpose to present a rezoning application to rezone the subject properties from single dwelling residential R1 to duplex residential R4. And the staff recommendation is there.
Your Worship, I so move that Council, number 1, receive the report pertaining to zoning amendment bylaw 2013-4500.056, and 2, direct staff to secure the community contribution prior to the adoption of the bylaw, should Council support the bylaw at third reading.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, I just had a question regarding the community contribution that is provided, which is $6,000, which is towards the plans for the adjacent neighborhood park. This came up the last time I asked, and I'm assuming this was one that was brought up by staff, not the developer. The community contribution towards this specific park.
Yeah, certainly. We work with the developer to identify opportunities. It's always preferable if we can identify something within the neighborhood where the rezoning is taking place. So certainly contributions to parks or volunteers in parks programs are common.
Okay, just because usually we tend to put them in a cash in lieu. So this has come up over and over again, whether it be with the United Way or those other type of contributions. So thank you for letting me know that.
Okay, Councillor Bessick, did you have something?
No, sorry.
Okay, Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to staff again. I try to Google Earth this, but are the houses on the high side of this, of Jacobs, are they duplexes or triplexes? I had a hard time seeing what they were.
Yeah, there's on the opposite side of Jacobs Lane, I guess to the south, there's a townhouse development. I believe it's approximately 10 units in there.
Okay, so it's not like it's these are going to be unusual to be situated there. There are others in that area as well.
From the Jacobs Lane side, they're going to be one-story developments, and I think from staff's perspective, fit in quite well with the building form that's there.
Thank you.
Okay, yes. Did we miss something?
Your Worship, if I may, could I have Councillor Beswick doing the motion again? We couldn't follow the motion as it was written on the agenda.
Okay.
If you could please reread the motion on item 8D.
8D, I think that was the one. 8D, that the motion was that Council direct staff to secure the community contribution prior to the adoption of zoning amendment bylaw 2013 number 4500.056. Should Council support the bylaw at third reading? Is that the one?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. And if you can have a second that.
Yes, I think Councillor Johnson did. Okay, Councillor Brennan, did you have?
I did. I just wanted to be clear on a point for my own understanding. This is a community contribution. This is not considered in the same category as cash in lieu for, is that correct?
That is correct, Your Worship. We often use the term cash in lieu when we're talking about park dedication through subdivision, where we either take land or cash in lieu of that dedication. And this is quite separate from community contributions that we look at through the rezoning process. That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no further questions. The next item is the bylaw.
Your Worship.
We should, but we'll have to vote. It's moved
to vote
on
on
the
the
previous
motion,
one?
yes, correct.
Okay. So, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councillor Beswick?
Thank you, Worship. I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2013-4500.056, RA 326, to rezone properties at 5393, 5397, and 5401 Jacobs Lane from single dwelling residential to duplex residential R4 in order to permit a duplex on each lot. Pass first reading.
Seconded? Did you get a second? Sorry, Councillor Anderson, seconded. I see no questions on this. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Your Worship, I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2013-4500.056 pass second reading.
Councillor Anderson, or sorry, Councillor Johnson, I think was first. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Are you, sorry, we're moving kind of quickly on that. Was it a late draw down there? I think that, okay. Moving into item E, liquor license application, LA 98, application for a permanent change to a liquor license at 1630 East Wellington Road, the Royal Canadian Legion, Mount Benson Branch 256. The purpose to obtain council comment regarding the application from the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 256 to amend their hours of liquor service. As council is aware, a municipal resolution is required before the province will consider the application further.
Your Worship, I would move that council recommend that the Liquor Control and Licensing Branch approve the application for a permanent change to an existing licensed establishment at 1630 East Wellington Road.
Okay, and seconded by Councillor Beswick. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The liquor license application LA 100, application for a permanent change to a liquor license. It's 141 Calder Road, Splitsville Entertainment. Purpose to obtain council comment regarding the application from Splitsville Entertainment to convert the establishment's current food primary liquor license licensed area to a liquor primary license with a change to permit minors. As council is aware, a municipal resolution is required before the province will consider the application further. And we do have a delegation before we go on to that, and it's Mr. Pat Haggerty, Splitsville Entertainment, sir. You're welcome.
Councillors, thank you. Thank you. It's been about a year and a half since I last made a presentation, and this time through, I think just to back up a little bit and give a little bit of history of what we're aspiring to do. And part of it is actually talking a little bit about what used to be Evergreen Lanes is now Splitsville. It's a bowling 16-lane 10-pin center that's been in the community for approximately 35 years. My partner and I, Tom Gruninger, took it over in 2006 and did a major renovation. Part of it is that our history is that we've been in the bowling business for over 50 years. We run a distributorship for the Brunswick Bowling and Billiards Corporation, which is the largest distributor of bowling equipment across the world. Been doing that for the past 25 years. We also own and operate other bowling centers, and in being the distributor, we also build and modernize other bowling centers across Canada as well too. So part of it is just to let council know that we're intrinsically involved with the bowling industry and being owners of Splitsville Entertainment and Nanaimo, which is an important entity to us, that we do come with some background in the bowling business. Not to bore anybody, but just very quick, the product bowling itself, it's found in most all communities, age from 3 to 93. It's fun, it's easy to play. We find that the average time, and this is important as we go through our presentation, it's anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, with the average being about 1.5 hours on site. The great thing about the product, it can be converted into sport, recreation, entertainment. Sport being the league bowlers, recreation, family outings, charities that we work in partnership with, school outings, and entertainment more to do with the corporate events and cosmic bowling. Not unlike other industries, whether it's lumber or you choose what it may be, our industry's changed quite dramatically. The league bowler, the sport bowler has dropped dramatically. There was about 11 million league bowlers no less than a dozen years ago, down to under 2 million now. So what's happening within our industry is that there's need for change. The change is to attract new entertainment or recreational bowlers, and with the box that we have, the only way really to do that is to go out and make major capitalization and modernization changes to accommodate the change within our industry. We set out, and we want to explain a little bit of our goals, is that we'd like to complete another modernization to convert this particular center in Nanaimo, which is smaller than our other two, into what we call an FEC, which is a family entertainment complex, to remain viable. We'd like to add an interactive games room, which is like a redemption room where kids will play games. Tickets would come out, and they would redeem those tickets for small prizes. We believe it would give the citizens of Nanaimo a different leisure experience. And we're very anxious to run a conducive business model so that we can maintain profits and stay viable in the community of Nanaimo. We'd like to live in harmony with our neighbors, with open communication, grow some of our community involvement with increased partnerships. And we're estimating this particular renovation and construction with our chattels is going to be in excess of $200,000. These are some of the charities. I don't happen to want to go through all these. Some of these might resonate with some of you, but these are some of the charities that, and different associations that we've worked with in the past. Some are as easy as one night, some others run for months on end. But again, just the product itself attracts quite a large crowd that would end up supporting these types of associations. This is page 2 of some of the other groups that we've worked with as well. The changes we're looking to remain a viable business is the acceptance of the city to allow a bylaw change to allow to have our interactive games room implemented into Splitsville. We'd like to shut down our current liquor primary bar area, which this space will be converted into the games room. We'd like to change our food primary into a liquor primary with a minor's endorsement. Thus becoming a family entertainment complex that appeals to all of our guests and ultimately creates an experience that we're anxious to propel. I've got here, I'm not suggesting I'd like to go through it, but we counted as of today 1,114 signatures on a petition that also sees some of the aspirations that we're trying to achieve. They would like to see it actually implemented at Splitsville. Not to bore anybody, I'll go very quickly here. A food primary allows you to serve liquor in the presence of minors when food is ordered as well. Liquor primary, as it's known, is no minors are allowed in that specific space. Liquor primary with a minor's endorsement, the LCLB has recognized that there are certain industries, not unlike curling rinks, golf courses, stadiums, and bowling centers that work a little bit different under this liquor primary. Our particular guests will come in. They don't necessarily come into our facility to eat. They come in to recreate, and ultimately what we'd like to do is provide other services or ancillary services to them so that they can have an experience for that hour to hour and a half to 2 hours, and ultimately wish to repeat that and come back and visit us once again. So in us getting to the point where we'd like to have the liquor primary with the minor's endorsement with the changing of the physical space, which I'll show you, I'd just like to make a note that based on some of the other experiences that we have in the bowling industry, not only throughout Canada, but all throughout the rest of North America, British Columbia is the only province that we have to go through this particular application to allow minors into the bowlers area. To be with adults that would actually purchase or consume alcohol. It's allowed everywhere else in North America. The red box is actually showing you currently right now what our liquor primary is that has 40 seats. The red box again shows where our food primary is with 148 seats. Our games room is going to be relocated into the bar area, and you'll note that we will not allow any liquor to be sold in that particular area. And this is a proposed liquor primary area with the minor's endorsement location. I was before council before, and that was in May of 2002. We had applied for that application. It was denied. It was denied for various reasons, which we take ownership to. We recognized we had a lack of communication with the RCMP. We had a lack of communication or no communication with their neighbors, and they had some legitimate concerns concerning minors, noise, and parking. And there was some recognition that we took upon ourselves that we needed to change some of our processes and protocol. We also thought there was some misinformation that was out in the community as well, too, that they thought we were opening something new, opening a liquor store or opening up a separate bar. And a lot of them didn't actually realize that we actually do serve liquor with minors in the building at any particular time as well, too. So again, we tried to, through what we called some communication, to us communication is quite vital. Later in 2012, we met with the RCMP and the LCVO, and again early in 2013, and we started implementing some what we call better practices that I'll explain in a bit. We had 2 open houses, one was held in August, the other in November. And we had various members of the RCMP, LCBO. We had City Representative Councillor Anderson joined us, and we had our architect as well too, just going through some of the things that we're aspiring to make change and communicate very well with our neighbors. Some of the best practices or internal procedures that we had, we went ahead and hired a new general manager, Gary McDonald, with over 30 years experience. Gary has worked in areas that have, in bowling centers exclusively, that have had both food primary and liquor primary with minors endorsements. Gary's expertise on making sure that some of these other protocols are being followed is important for us. We have signed the Good Neighbor Agreement. We've also implemented the perimeter checks, so on weekends we go out and check the property, making sure that we have no loitering going on. And this is kept up in a logbook that we have. We have a salutation guideline after 10 o'clock at night. Every single person, regardless of age, that leaving the building, we ask them that they please be responsible when they're leaving the property and be as quietly as possible. We have monthly staff meetings going over our serving at right guideline books of not over-serving. We have zero tolerance for outside alcohol, and we ID anybody that we believe is that looks 30 years or younger. We also have a last off the property now, meaning that once we lock the doors on the property, we'll actually drive around and make sure that we have our parking is we have some parking in the back of our building, so we just want to make sure that there's no loitering again, or people sort of hanging out on our particular site. We'd ask them to please leave. If not, we'd have to contact the RCMP. We don't allow no backpacks onto the facility, and we ask them to take them back to their cars, and we also check large purses. We've added additional signage to deal with some of the smoking areas and ensuring that no alcohol is brought in from the outside. We had some issues with regards to noise with garbage removal, and we've gone with we've talked with our vendor that takes care of that, and we've asked them to please do it between the hours of 9 and 7.
Sorry, I was going to say the 10 minutes is up, so okay. but if you could wind it up, don't rush through it, but the time is close.
We've got 4 additional policies that we're about to put into play with wristbands, increased coverage, security, and additional parking signage. And ultimately, we're looking for city to hopefully endorse our thoughts about allowing the structural change for minors endorsement.
Okay, there will be some questions. I just want to say thank you for the presentation. And in the past, the particular site has had challenges. I'm sure you're aware of it, but I just want to say that I'm very pleased to see all the changes that you've implemented, and I personally put a lot of faith in the Good Neighbor Agreement that the RCMP also support, and the city signs off on too. And so I really think you've made some very, very positive changes, and certainly I'll be supporting it. Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mr. Haggerty, and thank you for bringing us up to date on the history, because I think it's important when your last delegation was here seeking this change. You paid attention and you listened, and when we visited on site, I was much impressed with your commitment. I did hear you say, and I did meet with the neighbors on a couple of different occasions as well in meetings, and I did hear you say tonight, which makes me extremely happy to know that harmony with neighbors, and really important, and I know that you've made that commitment to ensure that you're taking all the necessary steps as humanly possible to ensure that the harmony with the neighbors is appreciated. And so I just want to thank you for that, and like Mayor Rattan, I'll be supporting this. When people wish to come into our community and invest in it, we just approved a similar project on the waterfront on Stewart Avenue, and to me this is about opportunity, this is about recreation, this is about investing in our community to make it a better place. And so I'm trusting that you're going to ensure that you're making this project a strong, successful one, and it'll make our community a better place to be. So thanks very much for investing in our community. I appreciate it.
Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Haggerty. I access and egress through my home from Calder Hill, and I have noticed a marked improvement over the past several months with outside loiterers, hangers-on. So thank you for that. Thank you for the new management and all the care you're taking to ensure that the neighbors have a quiet place to live. I think it's working out very well with the new regime, and I certainly will be supporting your application tonight.
Thank you.
Councillor Greaves.
Your Worship, I must admit I was a bit worried when I first saw this application because, but then I see as of March 2013 you're having no difficulty, so that's good to see. Have you ever thought of closed circuit TV or monitoring the back parking lot with cameras? I know I just briefly saw cameras there.
We actually we do have cameras already on site. There's, I believe, I would turn to Tony, you're active. We've got 8. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got 8 that are on the outside that do perimeter of the building. We've actually also, as of probably within the last 3 days, we had 3 out of our 7 parking lot lights that cover the whole property that needed new ballasts, and we've since, and I'm happy to announce that they're all up and working as well too. So the property is now very well lit as well.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm very encouraged by what all the information you presented to us, and I certainly will support this application. If I may, Your Worship, to staff, this good neighbor policy, I understand, is a sort of a form that fits all establishments, but I see it sort of contravenes what we're talking about here. We're sort of talking about minors being allowed into this licensed area, and yet on page 122, under minors, it says the licensed establishment shall not allow any person under the age of 19 into the establishment, and I won't want to read the rest of it. It's something to do with age 25 and all that stuff. So it kind of runs contrary to what you want to do, and I think perhaps this should be adjusted for that Splitsville. So that's just a comment. Thank you, Worship.
Okay, Councillor McKay.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Haggerty. And I'm going to say this in the most respectful manner. It's not hard to tell you're from Ontario. You referred to the LCBL as the LCBO twice.
We do have those in Ontario. LCLB, I apologize.
Good catch.
It's quite all right. I mean in the most respectful way. You are involved in an industry that's not unlike many industries that are going through this metamorphosis. They're going through this change with a complete redistribution of discretionary entertainment dollars within the typical family unit. And it must be a struggle. We're seeing it across the board. We're seeing attendance down at football games and at hockey games, and we're just seeing a whole metamorphosis of our whole weekly entertainment, something that was considered, as you say, for my grandparents who were part of the league, and they're all, they're moving on. The demographics are changing considerably, and it's going to be a real struggle for many of those industries, so you're going to have to use some imagination, and communities are going to have to give you a little bit of leeway to be able to go into and test the waters in some of those new ways to commit to the viability of your project, in actual fact. So good luck with that, and appreciate that. And I appreciate all the work that you've done to hear the neighbours. Yep, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I recall the last time this application was in front of us, what I thought was quite striking was that you hadn't known all of the complaints against you, and at that time I asked that you be given an opportunity to find out what those complaints are before we denied your application. That didn't happen, but I think your response to that in going out and finding out what the problems were, working with the neighborhood, working with the RCMP and our staff and liquor control, shows that when someone has a fair opportunity to know what the problem is, what the obstacles are, they will work to fix those. So glad to see you back here again, and I'm just glad to see that you knew the case against you and were able to rectify that.
Thank
so
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Councillor Beswick.
Well, no, Your Worship, I'm
Okay.
done. I was just going to make.
Oh, on the next one, okay. It's been moved and seconded now? No, it hasn't.
No, it
So if someone would like to move the motion?
Your Worship, I move that council recommend that the Liquor Control and Licensing Branch approve the application for a structural change to the existing licensed establishment at 171 Calder Road.
Is there a seconder? Seconder? Councillor Brennan. It's been moved and seconded. Oh, Councillor Anderson, more comment? Go ahead.
Well, I move we receive the delegation first because I'm speaking to the motion. I don't have any questions for the delegation.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all the questions we have for you at the present time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to mention that I attended the open house on November 21st, and I went and I sat down and I listened to what the proponents were discussing about the new changes, and I was disappointed that many of the people who said that they were upset about this change, they chose not to actually show up. And to actually have the proponents there and in person to be able to go and have a conversation about what changes and what things they would be able to do to make it better. And they didn't take that opportunity was disappointing, as I said. But to see that they've gone ahead with the Good Neighbor Agreement, the RCMP are in support of this, and the city is in support of it, and as well as the corporate citizenry that they take on doing great things for our community, such as helping Big Brothers and Big Sisters. I'm happy to support it along with my colleagues, as I think that they do great things for our community, and I'm happy to see that they're continuing to invest in our community.
Good point. Thank you very much. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move into item G, the 2013 December 02 E-Town Hall meeting regarding Nanaimo to Vancouver Nanaimo to Vancouver ferry service. Unanswered questions. The purpose to provide a summary of the questions and answers from the December 2, 2013 E-Town Hall meeting.
I move that council receive for information the report regarding unanswered question from the December 2nd, 2013 E-Town Hall meeting regarding Nanaimo to Vancouver ferry service.
Moved and seconded. No discussion. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So we'll move into the proposed road closure adjacent to 3678 Reynolds Road. Purpose to obtain council authorization for the conditional road closure and transfer agreement, and to direct staff to proceed with public notice for the road closure.
I'd move that Council 1 authorize the proposed road exchange from Mr. Lance Robinson, the owner of 3678 Reynolds Road, and direct the mayor and corporate officer to execute the conditional road closure and transfer agreement. And 2, direct staff to proceed with public notice for the road closure and the dedication of a portion of Reynolds Road.
Okay, it's been seconded by Councillor Beswick. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And that highway closure and dedication removal, a portion of Reynolds Road adjacent to 3678 Reynolds Road, bylaw 2013 number 7181, pass first reading.
Are we okay on that? Okay, and seconded. Moved and seconded. No discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And that
finally,
highway closure and dedication removal, bylaw 2013 number 7181, pass second reading.
Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We're moving into the 2013-2017 financial plan bylaw amendment, and the purpose is to obtain the council authorization to amend the 2013-2017 financial plan to reflect changes that have occurred since adoption in May 2013.
Your Worship, I would move that council receive for information the report regarding the 2013-2017 financial plan bylaw amendment.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into the bylaw.
And I would move that the financial plan amendment bylaw 2013 number 7162.02 to replace Schedule A to reflect changes that have occurred since May 2013 passed first reading.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. And moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And that financial plan amendment bylaw 2013 number 7162.02 pass second reading.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And that financial plan amendment bylaw 2013 number 7162.02 pass third reading.
Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Community Services, Section 78, Community Charter, 236 to 240 Halliburton Street. The purpose is to obtain council's reconsideration as requested by the owner of the remedial action ordered by council at a previous council meeting to address the unsafe conditions of the structure. And it's now, I'll just call upon anyone in attendance. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to the proposed remedial action for the properties at 236 and 240 Halliburton Street. Anyone in attendance who would like to speak to those matters? Seeing none, we'll move into the staff recommendation.
Your Worship,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to move staff recommendation that council pursuant to Section 78 of the Community Charter confirm, amend, or cancel the council resolution of 2013 October 28 for remedial action for the noted property, and to extend the remedial order timeline to 30 days from the date of this council meeting.
Okay, Councillor Brennan, do you want to second that, or do you want to speak to it?
No, I just, Councillor Greaves has some clarification.
Okay.
I just wanted to correct. I believe we need to correct that. They're asking us either confirm, amend, or cancel. And you read all three.
Confirm, amend, or cancel.
Yeah, but did you want to confirm it, amend it, or cancel it? That's what they're asking. So
Maybe
say
we could
one
have
of the three.
Mrs. Swaby, do you want to clarify the intent of staff?
I could be wrong.
Sure sounds like
That's correct. It's one of the three options. We have to ask you to
One of the three.
consider you approve one of those three.
Yes, Your Worship, then I'd like to cancel the council resolution
confirm
of 2013.
Well,
If you're intending to do option 2 as well, then I would amend it. And I'll look to Mr. Seward to confirm that.
Which one?
Your Worship, the three options are to confirm the resolution, which is the removal, amend it to something different than as written, or cancel it and therefore not proceed with the removal.
confirm.
okay, and I would assume
Then
that
it would be to confirm, Your
Confirmed.
Worship.
Yeah.
the motion will show as to
confirm.
confirm then? Yep. And was there a seconder on that one?
I'll second that.
Okay, and then now we have speakers on that. Councillor Brennan and Councillor Johnson, you didn't want to speak to it?
No.
But I think you were going, you're not speaking to it now. Okay, Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. I just would assume then it would mean to confirm and to amend to extend the remedial order timeline to 30 days from the date of this council.
A little
meeting.
vague, Mr. Swaby. Do you want to try to expand?
Yes,
on it?
I apologize, Your Worship. We'll look at wording next time to be a little different. These don't come up that often, but if I understand Mr. Seward correctly, we're reconfirming that you are agreeing that this has to come down, but you're also, on the second part, going to deal with whether you'll extend it by 30 days before we act on it.
Okay, is everyone comfortable with that? Understands that? So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into the bylaws. Sorry,
Your Worship.
bylaws with no accompanying report. 10A, motion that sewer regulation and charge amendment bylaw 2013 number 2496.26 to provide for the establishment, operation, and regulation of a system of sewage and/or drainage works be adopted.
So moved.
Moved, seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. B.
So moved, Your Worship.
Move B. Second. Discussion on B. All those in favor?
Your Worship, is it necessary for us to read out bylaws before we vote on them?
Do you want to read out? Okay,
Yes, it is.
so that the motion that the zoning amendment bylaw 2000, sorry, I just got ahead of myself. I think 10A was read out, was it not? So 10B will be a motion that zoning amendment bylaw 2013 number 4500.044 RA 314 to rezone property at 3690 Country Club Drive from single dwelling residential R1 to residential corridor COR1 in order to construct a 4-story and multifamily development be adopted.
So moved.
Moved, seconded, discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion carries. And,
See, Your Worship, if you would like me to, I'll read it.
oh, yeah, I was gonna, go ahead.
Sure. The zoning amendment bylaw 2013, number 4500.047, RA 321, to rezone property at 5709 Ocean View Terrace, 5620 Hammond Bay Road from single dwelling residential R1 to row housing R7 in order to permit 2 row houses on each lot be adopted.
Seconded, no discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion carries.
8D, or D, Your Worship, that zoning amendment bylaw 2013 4500.051 RA 322 to rezone property at 2155, 2157, and 2161 Boxwood from single dwelling residential R1 to highway industrial in order to permit a commercial card lot gas station be adopted.
Okay, moved and seconded, All those in favor? Opposed? Now, if I can, maybe we'll get Councillor Anderson to read E, and maybe we'll get our acting mayor, Councillor Messerick, can be here for E, and
Certainly.
I will return shortly.
Councillor Anderson, you're up.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2013 number 4500.053 ZA1-51-11 text amendments and 10 map changes be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
And that zoning amendment bylaw 2013 number 4500.054.
Your Worship, the item F on the agenda has been removed.
Okay, then G, that waterworks rate and regulation amendment bylaw 2013 number 7004.08 to fix terms, rates, and conditions under which water facilities may be supplied and used be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Greaves. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
That H, that municipal solid waste collection amendment bylaw 2013 number 7128.03 to impose fees and charges in relation to the use of waste disposal and recycling services be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Greaves. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
J, that highway closure and dedication removal, a portion of Waddington Road adjacent to 2020 Estevan Road, bylaw 2013, number 7179 be adopted.
Westwood Road?
It's Waddington Road.
Aye.
Did I skip I?
Yep.
Oh, okay, well, can we just move J, because I already said it, and then I'll go back to I? Okay, well, we're on J.
Seconded by Councillor Greaves. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
And I, that highway closure and dedication removal, a portion of Westwood Road adjacent to 141 Westwood Road, bylaw 2013, number 7178 be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor McKay. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
K, that general fund asset management reserve fund establishing bylaw 2013 number 7186 to establish a reserve fund for the future replacement or renewal of general fund capital assets be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Brennan. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
That sewer fund asset management reserve fund establishing bylaw 2013 number 7187 to establish a reserve fund for the future replacement of sewer fund capital assets be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
M, that water fund asset management reserve fund establishing bylaw 2013 number 7188 to establish a reserve fund for the future replacement of water fund capital assets be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Greaves. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Your Worship, you are on number 11.
Your Worship.
Yes.
Before we move on, I didn't realize what F was. Can we get an explanation as to why F was withdrawn? This is for
Yes, Your Worship, I understand this is about the medical grow-off out at Duke Point.
Right.
The rezoning application at Council's request was to secure a covenant on title that would ensure that we collected industrial taxes. One of the things that we have direction from Council in the past is to ensure that the covenant is registered and not registered with just a pending number. And that's to ensure that it doesn't get rejected by land titles. And staff's discussions with our solicitor today identified that there is a risk to this covenant not being accepted by land titles. And therefore, we removed it from tonight's agenda pending final registration of the covenant.
Thank you. It's my understanding that they are on a very tight deadline to have a crop produced in order to satisfy the requirements to the federal government by April 1st. Is that going to be possible now?
Your Worship, I don't know the specifics of the timeline, and Mr. Lindsay can help with that, I think.
Certainly, Your Worship, we're continuing to work with the applicant. Specifically, they now have a building permit application in, which we'll continue to process. Obviously, they would like to have had the application finalized this evening, but we'll move forward with the application for building permit and hopefully be in a situation to issue it in early January and allow them to commence their construction.
Okay, and we can, but your point's taken, and I mean, I think we want to demonstrate to these people that we want to assist them in every way to meet the deadline that they're committed to in April, and...
Your Worship, and in the event the covenant is registered tomorrow, the next day, this week, it would be up to council whether you'd like to have a special meeting to accommodate their needs by having a special council meeting.
We could, but I think council has already indicated support, unless I'm mistaken on that, and we also gave that support on the condition that the covenant be registered. So if the covenant's registered, I don't know if we'd need another staff meeting council meeting to handle what we've already handled.
No, Your Worship, I was just thinking in terms of adopting the bylaw, you would have to have a formal council meeting.
Yeah, on that final one.
Okay. Is there any way, of Your Worship, of giving provisional consent of adoption pending the receipt of the covenant?
Unfortunately, Your Worship, thank you for that question. There's no way to approve in principle a development of any type. It has to, you either have
yes
to
or no
approve it or not.
situation.
So we cannot adopt conditionally?
No. Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Worship. Then in the event of us trying to move this forward to meet some of the timelines and criteria you alluded to, that we may be able to have a special meeting of council for this item, would that be something that you think might happen between now and Christmas, or is that something that would not happen until we reconvene after the new year?
Mr. Lindsay?
Yeah, Your Worship, the covenant itself is with Land Titles Office. It has received a pending number. Our understanding it'll be sort of the middle of the week before they get a chance to review that.
So it's a matter of days then?
That's what we
potentially
believe, but I can't give you with any level of assurance whether it'll be this week or next weekend.
Okay.
Your Worship, may I just follow that up with, in the event that that takes place and in the event that we have a quorum, and I don't know that you need any direction for it, and maybe you do, but I would be very willing to participate in a special meeting of council if that be the case prior to Christmas.
Thank you, Your Worship. What we'll do is we'll work with the applicant. We'll talk to what their needs are in terms of financing. We're aware of the support. They're aware of the support pending the registration, and we'll see if they need to have it completely adopted. If that's the case, we'll let you know.
Okay, I might just add though, and to Councillor Beswick's point, I think all of council, whoever's available, would be prepared to meet if we could expedite, if it's necessary to expedite the process on their behalf. We would certainly do that. Okay, I guess that really moves it along. There's, sorry? Yeah, there's nothing for correspondence related, so we go straight into, yes.
My apologies, Your Worship. May I just speak to 13, notice of motion?
Yes.
Just for those that are paying attention, I did make a notice of motion 2 weeks ago that I was going to bring forward a performance audit review motion, and given the fact that we're two councillors are absent and some other circumstances, I pulled that, and just in case anybody was wondering why I pulled that and intend to bring it forward in the new year. I did advise the mayor of my decision a couple of days ago, and then I did follow that up with the balance of my colleagues on council a day late or a couple of days later than that. So I just wanted to ensure that I was forthcoming with that information, Your Worship.
Okay, good point. Thank you. And there's no other business, so we'll move right into question period. And
Your Worship, if there's no questions, which there seems to be none, but I'll allow Councillor Anderson. But just prior to that, if this is our last meeting, which it is, I would just like to extend the merriest of Christmases and the safest of holidays for all of those families and friends and citizens of this great city, and have a wonderful Merry Christmas and Happy New Year with all those that you love. Thanks very much, Your Worship.
Good point. And I just want to reiterate the same point. I think I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well on behalf of Council. And I think now the intent is we may now go back into, but I don't know that we need do we need the motion now to resume the section 90.1 in camera? Go ahead.
Your Worship, I think you moved to adjourn and then you motioned to go in camera.
So moved.
Motion to go in camera, Your Worship.
Okay. And do you want to make that motion now that we're in camera? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries.